Hello.
Hello.
What's
Welcome.
up? What's up?
And so, what's up?
I'm Olivia,
And I'm Amy.
and
And
this
this
is
is
Girls
Girls
Gone
Gone Spooky.
Spooky. Wow. I feel like
Wow.
we're living in a time of really good scary movies, I'm gonna say.
Yes.
I
Oh,
still
yeah.
haven't seen Nosferatu, which feels like a crime,
hmm
but I'm gonna.
Yes. We're considering going tonight, possibly. I don't know.
You? I've heard it's
Yeah.
really scary,
I'm gonna
Amy.
try it. I'm gonna try.
I can't believe you're gonna beat me to it, you
But,
little witch.
yeah, sorry. And Dave is the one that really wants to go. He is also horrified of scary movies. Like,
Apparently you
he's leading the
see
charge.
Count Orlok's schlong and
I
it's
heard.
traumatizing.
I heard that.
Love it. I love it.
Was
And
it
then
a prosthetic?
apparently,
I
yes,
heard
it was
that too.
prosthetic.
Okay.
And apparently Bill Skarsgård, who's my like love of my life celebrity, he gifted it to Jack Quaid.
That's
Is it Jack
amazing.
Quaid? Yeah, I think it's Jack Quaid. The one who's in The Boys, I think. Yeah, anyway, he gifted it to him. And it's like his most like treasured.
I love it.
belonging now.
Keep it forever.
Yeah, Orlok schlong. Prosthetic schlong.
That would be on the mantle place.
Hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
I would find a way to work that into my home decor in a way that like wasn't super obvious. I would find a way. Like, it'd be in the middle of like a flower arrangement or something.
Yeah, perfect.
I would find a way.
I was gonna say a light switch. That's very
the
obvious.
World's biggest light switch.
Yep.
Yuck. I'm so excited though. Okay, you have to text me right after if you do go see it.
Okay, we'll see. I'll let you know.
And then there's another movie that will be out as of the time this episode is posted. January 17 is out, called Wolfman. And it's with like a bunch of stars. It's with the woman who plays Ruth in Ozarks and like some other like faces that I recognize, and I can't think of their names now. But anyway, it looks really good. And I feel like they got, it's that Blumhouse production company, which I feel like does like really good, like genuinely scary stuff, which is fun. Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna go see that too because it looks real good.
Okay.
It looks real good. Which leads us to today's episode. Yes. Not really related at all to what I was talking about, but we're gonna go with it.
Yes.
It is most credible hauntings. So there's a little bit of overlap because obviously we have covered a lot of very credible hauntings.
Yes.
But this actually was inspired by a Reddit thread on the paranormal subreddit, and there are like thousands of comments. So we'll see if we have to revisit this topic, but there are some really good ones. So I picked one that we have talked about before, and then two, like, I don't want to call them minor ones, but like ones that I had never heard of. And yeah, I'll get to those in a minute. But the one that we've covered before is the Demon House of Gary, Indiana.
It's so scary.
So scary. It's also known as the house of more than 200 demonic entities. So I'm going to go through a little bit of like relatively quick background, and then we'll kind of get into like the why. Like, why is this credible? And all three of these, it's witnesses. It's like witnesses who are like officials or like police officers or like child protective services, like people who, you know, are skeptical by nature because they've seen a lot of shit that like, oh, it could be supernatural. They're like, no, this is a gas leak. Like they're all very like very straightforward about it and logical. So but back to the Demon House. So in November 2011, so not that long ago, LaToya Ammons, her mother, Rosa Campbell, and her three children, then ages 7, 9, and 12, moved into a house located at 3860 Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana. Just days after the family moved in, They claimed that black flies were swarming the porch in the middle of December and kept returning repeatedly despite the family killing them over and over again. So, like, already weird. That's a sign of Beelzebub. Weird vibes.
Yeah.
Campbell then starts hearing footsteps all over the house. And this is the mother, or I guess the grandmother in the household. She's hearing footsteps in the basement and doors creaking, footsteps on the stairwell. And as she's like investigating, she's not seeing anyone. It's not the kids up in the middle of the night. And finally, when she comes downstairs to investigate one night, she sees a shadowy figure of a man pacing in the living room, and in the morning even found a boot print that didn't match. It was a man's, like a grown man's boot print, so it didn't match anyone living in the house. She also said that she was choked at one point by an unknown force. Ammon's 12-year-old daughter claimed to have levitated above her bed unconscious during a sleepover with a friend. They were said to have prayed until the girl returned to bed, and the daughter had no memory of this incident. I'm going to like double click into some of those because there's a little more detail, but I'm just giving you the lay of the land here as a reminder for everyone. The older son was allegedly thrown across the room by an unknown force. The younger son allegedly had his eyes roll back into his head and was growling, saying, "It's time to die, and I will kill you." One of the sons, I can't remember which one it was. Oh, the youngest boy was walking up the wall backwards.
Yeah.
At one point.
And that happened in the hospital, right?
It happened, let's see. I'm not sure if it happened in the hospital or at the house, but it was witnessed by multiple Department of Child Services, DCS personnel.
Yeah.
So they were surrounded by professionals and this was happening. And people who've tried to debunk it say, oh, well, the grandmother was holding his hand while this happened. So they're saying that this like 6-year-old child could have one-handed planked on the grandma and walked up the wall by pushing against the wall. Is that possible? Yes.
Yeah.
Is that probable? I think no.
Yes.
So
I would agree.
Anyway, so the family reached out to their physician, Jeffrey Onayukwu, on April 19th, 2012. So they were dealing with this for a few months at this point. And when he visited the house during the haunting, he noted that their behavior was quote unquote delusional. Someone from his office contacted the police, and after the police arrived, the children were taken to the hospital. The older boy was described as acting rationally, while the younger boy was like screaming and thrashing and like really not well. The family hired, so in 2012, the DCS was alerted to the family, and they believed that the children were performing for their mother. And so, again, DCS personnel had witnessed this youngest boy walking up the wall backwards. The 37-year-old police captain at the time in the area, Charles Austin, was like a known skeptic, was like going in like, these people are fucking crazy. Like, there's no, like, ghosts. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is some sort of, like, something's not right in this house.
Yeah.
When he left the house, he went once. And when he left the house, he was like, oh, there's something fucking happening in there.
Yikes.
So a photo that was published by the Indianapolis Star claims to show, but I would say pretty clearly shows a shadowy figure when no one was in the house. The family was removed from the house at that point in time. I will post it when this episode goes live because it is freaky. And someone else on Reddit, you guys will have to like go to our Instagram and look, but someone else on Reddit had said like there's a shadowy figure in the window, and then someone was like, does anyone else see a face in the area below the house as well? And they're like or is it no, like, you know how in some of these like kind of southern houses where it's like tall grass and the house is kind of lifted above the ground, there's like that space. I guess it's like a flooding precaution. but there's something like really weird. And they're like, is this pareidolia or that thing where you like make shapes in your mind in the dark? Or is this like, is there something there? And so other people are like, yeah, I feel like I see that too. So a lot of weird shit happening in that photo. So the family hired a Reverend, Michael Magno, to perform an exorcism. He interviewed the family on April 22nd, 2012, and concluded that they were being tormented by demons. He eventually performed 3 exorcisms, 2 in English and 1 in Latin, and 1 was performed directly on LaToya Ammons, the mother. The Ammons family moved to Indianapolis in 2012, after which the events stopped. So people had all these theories about like, well, she wanted attention and this was like borderline child abuse, or she was like late on her rent and she didn't have money, so she wanted to like get out of her lease or whatever. Like, which like, okay, fine. That seems reasonable, except for there were witnesses to some of this really scary shit. And 2, wouldn't she just keep repeating that behavior? Like, I just don't think people who are like that stop being like that. And like, she's been interviewed more recently in like the 2020s, and she's like, seems normal. Like outside of like her recounting what happened, what it felt like to be possessed, and like all this stuff, like she seems kind of normal. So I don't know. It's really fucking weird. So I will definitely share. I'll definitely share the photo. And I wanted to share sort of like I'll call it like the calm before the storm, but this is like the lead up. So the event that really pushed the family over the edge to like seek external help was the daughter levitating off the bed. So to go into a little more details, this was March 10th, 2012. It was about 2 a.m. and normally Campbell Ammons and her children would have been asleep, but they were mourning the death of a loved one with a group of friends. Ammon, who was in Campbell, the grandmother's bedroom, started screaming, startled everyone by screaming, "Mama, Mama," to the grandmother. So the grandmother, Campbell, said she ran into her bedroom where her then 12-year-old granddaughter and a friend were staying. Ammons and Campbell said the 12-year-old was levitating above the bed, unconscious. According to their account of events, Ammons and several others surrounded the girl, starting to pray. Campbell said she remembers being absolutely terrified. "I thought, what's going on?" Campbell said. "Why is this happening to us?" Eventually, Campbell said her granddaughter descended onto the bed and the girl woke up with zero memory of what had happened. They said the people who had been visiting that night refused to return to the house. So, like, the friend saw it too. It wasn't just the family. These family friends saw it as well. So Campbell says she remembers telling her daughter, LaToya, "We need help. We need to talk to someone who knows how to deal with this. Like, there's something wrong." They didn't know what it was, but they were starting to think this is something paranormal or supernatural. So they called local churches, but most refused to speak with them. Then eventually, after listening to Campbell and Ammons talk about the house and visiting it, officials at one church told them that the Carolina Street house had spirits in it. They recommended the family clean the home with bleach and ammonia, which seems not a good idea, but whatever. Then to use oil to draw crosses on every door and window. At the church's suggestion, Ammon said she poured olive oil on her 3 children's hands and feet and then smeared the oil in the shape of crosses on their foreheads. Campbell and Ammons also told the Star they reached out to 2 clairvoyants who said the family's home was besieged by more than 200 demons, hence the name Demon House. Their explanation made sense to Campbell and Ammons because it meshed with their Christian faith. "The best thing you can do is move," Ammons remembers the clairvoyant telling her, but moving wasn't an option because they were cash-strapped. So instead, Ammons said she took a clairvoyant's advice and made an altar in the basement. She covered an end table with a white sheet, then placed a white candle and a statue of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus on it. She opened a Bible to Psalm 91. She said she and another person donned white t-shirts and wound white scarves around their heads. Also, on a clairvoyant's advice, they burned sage and sulfur through the house, starting upstairs and working their way down. The smoke was so thick they could hardly breathe. Ammons drew a cross with the smoke, and the person she was with read the psalm aloud as they moved through the house. Quote, "You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday." Ammon said nothing weird happened for 3 days, and then everything got way worse. This is when the demons started possessing Ammon's and her children. The kids' eyes were bulging, evil smiles were on their face, their voices were deepening to the point where it was like, there's no way this is fake, like that they're putting it on. Campbell said that the demons didn't affect her, she felt, because she was born with protection from evil. So I don't know. She said she and others like her, whatever that means, have a guardian who protects them. But Ammon's recalled feeling weak, lightheaded, warm when she was possessed. Her body shook, and she said she felt completely out of control. The youngest boy, who was 7 at the time, sat in a closet talking to a boy that no one else could see. And the other boy would describe to him what it felt like to be killed. Which is just like, where would a 7-year-old get that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So the 7-year-old once flew out of the bathroom as if he'd been thrown, and a headboard went smacked onto Ammon's daughter, causing a wound that needed stitches. The 12-year-old would later tell mental health professionals that she sometimes felt as if she were being choked and held down so that she couldn't speak or move. She heard a voice say to her that she'd never see her family again and wouldn't live past the next 20 minutes. Some nights were so bad that the family slept at a hotel. And this is the thing that I'm like, these people are cash strapped. If they're doing all of this for attention, why would they leave? Like, I don't know. So the doctor who first came was like, they're hallucinating, like they're delusional, like just was really not buying it. But yeah, so I'm going to get to the walking up the wall. So they said that Ammon's sons cursed Anyaku in demonic voices raging at him. Medical staff said the youngest boy was lifted and thrown into the wall with nobody touching him. The boys passed out and wouldn't come to, and then they were both kind of like holding the boys. So they couldn't figure out what's happening. Yeah, so they took them to Methodist Hospital's campus in Gary. The hospital personnel laughed at her desire to anoint her sons in olive oil there, and she said, I couldn't talk to them. But anyway, the boys woke up in the hospital, so they finally came to. The older boy, who was 9 at the time, was acting rational, but the youngest was like going absolutely mad. It took 5 men to hold him down. 5. And he was 7.
He's 7, yeah.
Yeah. So they then call DCS. Valerie Washington, who's a family case manager at DCS, is asked to handle the investigation. A psychiatrist at the hospital evaluated Ammon's and determined that she was of sound mind. So like there was no, whatever. So
yeah.
She interviewed the rest of the family in the hospital, Valerie Washington as well. And while she was speaking with Ammon's, the 7-year-old started growling and his eyes were rolling back in his head. He locked his hands around his older brother's throat and refused to let go until adults pried his hands open. Later that evening, Washington and a registered nurse, Willie Lee Walker, brought the 2 boys into a small exam room for an interview, and Campbell joined as well. So the grandmother was there. 7-year-old again starts looking at his brother and growling, saying, "It's time to die." The boy said in a deep, unnatural voice, "I will kill you." While the youngest boy spoke, the older brother started headbutting Campbell in the stomach. So then both the boys are like going wild. Yeah. Campbell grabbed her grandson's hand and started praying. What happened next would rattle the witnesses, and to some it would offer not only evidence but proof of paranormal activity. This is according to Valerie Washington's official DCS report. She said, and this was corroborated by Walker, the RN who was there, the 9-year-old had a weird grin, that's a quote, and walked backwards up the wall to the ceiling. He then flipped over Campbell, landing on his feet, never letting go of his grandmother's hand.
That's just insane.
Yeah, yeah. Later, police asked Washington whether the boy ran up the wall, like doing some sort of acrobatic trick.
That would make a difference.
Right. And Washington says no. And she quotes, it's quoted, she said the boy, quote, glided backwards on the floor, wall, and ceiling. Like, what the fuck? So... Anyway, so everyone was like, Walker, the RN, is like, we didn't know what the fuck was going on. That was crazy. I was like, everybody get out. Like, get out of this room. Everybody get out. And Walker, the RN, who had been with them throughout the day as well, like said, like, this kid was not himself. Like, he was acting so erratically. So anyway, that's why it's convincing, because there's so many witnesses to some of this scary motherfucking shit. And yeah, that's it.
That's such a
the demon house
compelling story.
Yeah.
And
so
I saw a comment that was like, what did that nurse possibly chart after that happened?
Literally.
Like, awake and oriented. Weird grin. Ambulated up the wall.
Like, ambulated. What? I can't. Ambulated up the wall. That's so good, Amy. It's funny. So then, this is kind of the last little leg of this, is who else other than Zach Bagans,
of course,
decided to investigate the house and then tear it down. So the house is now gone, which is probably for the best.
Yeah, I think so.
But some people are annoyed by that, because it's like, okay, so he like claimed that this was like his to investigate and no one else gets to like investigate it. But it's like very typical Zach Bagans. A boy. So there's a disclaimer at the beginning saying that demons can be communicated to you electronically. So, for example, by watching a show where an actual demon, not like a movie where it's fictional, but an actual demon is caught on camera, it can access you that way. So it's hard to say, like, is it power of suggestion? Because it said that outright on the documentary. Some people claim that when it originally came out, it didn't say that. But then there were so many reports of people having really strange occurrences after that they added that. So I don't know the answer to that one. Like, it's just kind of a weird thing. But I found some stuff on Reddit, like people saying, like, just not good stuff in their house, like hearing footsteps and like disembodied voices, and all the people in the comments are like, yep, this happened to me after watching that fucking Demon House movie. So anyway, it's
very
interesting.
Very
interesting.
I mean, that's like the people who watched the live stream of Peggy, I think it was, or some other doll we've talked about.
Yes.
Like,
so
had
scary
a heart attack or something.
I know, it's really fucking scary. Don't love that. So that's the Demon House of Gary, Indiana. So I have two more, and these are like little quickies, and these are actually Canadian stories, specifically from Quebec. And someone posted on there, it was like kind of hidden in the comments, and I was like, oh, these are Canadians, I'll share these. And they were like, they're from Quebec, so nobody cares because nobody speaks French. So I was like, okay, I'll cover them. So this is the demonic infestation of Acton Vale in 1969. So this is an old one.
Yeah.
Silvio St. Ange and his wife, Mrs. Silvio St. Ange. I don't know why they didn't just say her name.
Come on.
But they were respectable people living in a normal family way until the 6th of January 1969, when invisible and diabolical forces invaded their home in Acton Vale. Clergyman Claude Leveillé, Normand Bernier, and Wilfrid Berard of the Saint-Andre parish were called in to witness the mayhem. So this is what makes this one credible, is there are these three priests that were called in and were like, what is happening here? So all three priests saw the mysterious action that was occurring at 1385 LeMay Street and confirmed that the house was inhabited by mysterious forces moving items around in a violent manner. So this reminded me of another story where there was a child living in the house who wasn't their child, and it was like they were adopted, I think, and like weird stuff happened when they came into the house, but then when they left, it stopped. Do you remember this one? I think it was one of yours.
Yes, I do. But now I can't remember what our theme was or what the
I don't
details
remember
were.
Either. Creepy kids, maybe?
Yeah.
But anyway, so it started when Mrs. St. Ange noticed that a picture of a saint had been moved and was now nailed to the door of Guylaine Bro, Briot, a 7-year-old who they were raising at the time.
Mm.
Mrs. St. Ange thought the child might have done it, but she then noticed that the item moved again while the child was with her. So, like, sort of implying that she, like, physically saw it moving.
Yeah. Okay.
Although it's not, like, 100% confirmed just yet. So Mrs. St. Ange returns the picture to its original spot. Soon, the couple saw objects flying in front of their eyes and smashing on the walls, including a bust of the Holy Virgin that was mashed to bits, like,
Wow.
obliterated. And it was mainly holy items that were moving. So depictions of saints, depictions of the Holy Mother, of Mary, of Jesus, like, and the child is just, like, sitting beside them. So it's like, okay, it's not the kid unless the kid is, like, possessed. But anyway, the image that the image bounced, the Holy Virgin bounced and shattered at the feet of the 3 Catholic clergymen who had been called in to oversee the situation. So the entity was clearly, like, revving up, gaining energy, and the second those Catholic men walked in, it was like, oh,
I'm
hell
ready
nah.
now.
Yeah.
I'm ready now.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So the priests then scattered holy water all over the room, and the force became even more intense. The unseen, presumably demons, continued to cause a mess in the home all throughout that Tuesday evening. Only little Guylaine Briot could see the force, which seemed to be targeting her. So she lost balance repeatedly, as if being pushed by an invisible force. The demon knocked a rosary to the floor that the child had been holding in her mouth. The child told the others of what she saw. Look out for the big hairy hand near you. Look, it's going under the couch. So it's like they're all seeing the effects of this being, but the kid can actually see the being itself doing it.
Poor thing.
Yeah, I know. The child, hellish events continued for 3 days until Mr. and Mrs. St. Ange returned Guylaine to her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Briot of 1451 Ricard, a 15-minute walk away. They were heartbroken, as they had been raising the child since she was 6 months of age. She's a saint, Mrs. St. Ange said about young Guylaine. Once Guylaine was gone, the mysterious events came to a sudden halt. The 3 clergymen reported the events to other religious authorities, all of whom declined to comment. And then they cut to now. Like, they show a picture of Guylaine Briot, like, as a 50-something-year-old adult, and she seems totally normal and well-adjusted. But it's just, like, one of those freaky things. Like, what the hell happened, and why was it targeting her? Like, it's just so weird.
Yeah. And to go on and just be normal,
I know,
is impressive and also very strange.
Yes, agreed. So, and then our last one, let me just pull it up here. Our last one is in Beauport, Quebec. Beauport. So I'll get to what makes it convincing, but I'll give you the background here first. Okay. So, let's see here. Okay, so it was an August morning in 1989, and the skies were cloudy in a Quebec city called Beauport. Young Nancy is laying in her bed, daydreaming, as her mother is finishing making breakfast. She's just waking up. She suddenly hears a deafening noise above her head. Sorry, there are, like, so many pop-ups on this site. And it brings her to reality. Moments later, there's another more loud sound and a violent shake. And it's, like, centimeters from the head of her bed. So she's like, what the hell is going on here? So it shakes her out of sleep finally. And she looks up and sees above her head there's a giant hole in the wall. Like, bust right through the wall.
Wow.
Yeah. So she's, like, yelling for her mom. They're like, what the fuck? And apparently this had been happening for a while, in terms of, like, the banging and the, like, walls shaking and loud noises. And they're like, what the fuck is going on here? So they're like, that's it. We're fucking out of here. Yeah. So, hold on, I just lost my spot. So yeah, so what makes this so credible is that it's caught on camera. for one. There's an interview, a video of the mother saying, here's what's happening. They brought technicians, they brought gas company specialists out, they brought all kinds of people. There was no one living. So the daughter's bedroom was against the apartment next door to them, and no one lived there at the time. Cops came because they were like, someone has to be in there, and they're trying to like bust down the wall. What the fuck's going on? The cops come, they search the apartment, there's nothing going on. It's then that they're doing the interview that it starts happening again. So they've confirmed there's no one there. What is happening? So she's saying like, well, the wall is moving back and forth just like that, and it's doing it behind her, and then it makes a kind of noise just like that. Like, it's literally happening. And they're like, we were skeptical. We thought someone was knocking from the other side, but there's no one there. There's no one living there. And there were other strange phenomena going on as well, like just, you know, weird sounds and other things. But this was the first like big thing that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. The plaster was coming off the walls. It was like banging so loud and so hard. So anyway, there was no like real resolution for it. Like, they thought, oh, well, maybe, I can't remember what one of the explanations was. A gas leak could have caused the vibration that potentially could have been strong enough to do that kind of damage.
Interesting.
But when they investigated, they found nothing. Like, there was no issue like that. And so it's believed throughout Quebec, but I think like by people who are interested in like psychokinesis, that this is evidence of it, like hard evidence of it, because it's literally a video of it happening. I mean, it's wild. Like, you can look it up, the Beauport phenomenon. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. It is so fucking bizarre.
That's
so
crazy.
Quite credible, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, same. Wow.
And it's your turn now. Those are my most credible hauntings.
That was a one-off event. It seems like,
I guess. Wow. I mean, they moved because they were like, fuck this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone else ever moved in, but they moved away. They were like, nah, we're good.
That's enough. Yeah. Once is enough.
Yeah. Once is plenty. Thanks.
Yeah. Wow. Good ones.
So yeah. What you got?
All right. I have some short things today.
Love it.
So one thing that I saw pretty repeatedly on the Reddit thread that we were referring to is just people saying Gettysburg, like just in general.
Yeah. Honestly, I always overlook the like Civil War stuff and the war ones because I just find them to be sad usually, but like they are extremely credible.
Yes, I agree. They're never the ones that I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to read about that.
Yeah.
But and we have a full episode on Gettysburg. I think, did we both do it, or it was one of our like East Coast situations?
Yeah, you're right.
But
yeah, that's
anyway,
right.
One specific place that came up, I omitted the ones that I know we talked about, which was more specifically like people's houses, like the one where the bullet went through the wall and the bullet's still there or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, this one is called Iverson's Pits. Which I don't think we talked about. Pits. Yes. So I won't go into all the history because we don't really need it, but just know, as with many Civil War battles, this one was not a walk in the park. So let's get past this. And now we'll just get to the hauntings.
Yes.
So it was a bloody battle, sad, of course. And the other reason that I think this one came up is that the rumors, I guess, of haunting, of it being haunted, came up almost right away.
Yeah.
Like, it has been thought to be haunted pretty much since this battle happened.
Yeah.
So it was reported that hired farmhands would refuse to work in the fields where
Oh,
this
okay.
took place after dusk fell because they were absolutely convinced that it was haunted. And before the 1970s, when the interest in battlefield haunting sparked, Iverson's Pits was the only location on the battlefield that was reportedly haunted, with
Mm.
sightings dating back to a time just after the battle, like I said. So, um, let's see, of the longtime hauntings, it's reported that at night and from a distance across the field, passers-by have seen what they describe to be hundreds of white handkerchiefs fluttering just above the ground.
What?
And the field will get enveloped in mist, but like not really in other places in
Yeah.
town. It's just centered on this field.
Oh, that gives me
Um,
goosebumps. The handkerchiefs
yeah,
fluttering?
yeah,
That's really eerie.
yeah. And maybe I should have read about the history because what
Well,
if what if there was like a surrendering situation that happened there and those white
maybe.
handkerchiefs are the people who died trying to
Yeah, maybe.
surrender. Um but anyway, then also like more modern, there's of course this is on ghost tours, and people have talked
Of
about
course.
seeing shadowy apparitions walking the fields, unexplained lights, and also the sounds of gunfire, which
Mm.
I know is also a common one in Gettysburg in general, is hearing a lot of guns
Yeah,
going on.
for sure.
Yeah. So that was just a pretty quick one. Yeah, like I said, that one's our credible haunting because of just the number of people who have
Oh,
seen
yeah.
things, how long it's been going on. Um, and yeah, I wanted to give an honorable mention to one that we definitely talked about in the episode, but
Mm.
it came up a few times in that thread too, and it's the Sachs Covered Bridge, which
Oh, yeah.
is another Gettysburg location. Um, of course, again, there was a bloody, horrible battle that took place there. That's probably why it's
Of
haunted.
course.
um, and so this is a very popular location on ghost tours as well. And the things that I remember from our episode, which was really long ago now, um, people talk about the strong smell of cigar smoke
Oh.
because this was like a place where people would like reconvene, I think. Like it was
Oh, so
a
they'd be
spot
like
for,
reassessing, kind of.
yes, exactly. And if I remember correctly, there was also a lot of hanging that took place from this bridge. Um, so just not great, but it's beautiful if you look
Yikes.
at photos. So anyway, Gettysburg is
Beautiful, haunted as fuck.
yes, with a dark history, that is for sure.
God.
So those were just the quick Gettysburg ones. And then the other one that I saw consistently on that thread that it sounded familiar, but I don't think we actually covered this, the Sally
Mm.
House in
Mm-mm.
Kansas. Yeah.
That
Okay.
doesn't sound familiar.
Yeah. So reasons for this one being more credible, according to the people
Okay.
on Reddit, is that the number of people again that have seen things, and also that it was caught on camera.
Mm.
So
Caught on
the
camera.
Sally,
I'm sold.
yeah, same. Especially when it was a long time ago. Like I think the footage that
Totally.
they're talking about is from the 80s or something, and not that you couldn't doctor that, but
Yeah.
it was less. It's not AI. We'll say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, okay. The Sally House is in Kansas. And some people say, I mean, I saw this a lot when I was researching, saying that it's the most haunted house in the entire nation. But then I also saw that about like the Whaley House
They all
and
claim it.
all
Yeah.
of these. Yeah.
I feel
So,
like I care less about how haunted it is and more about how scary it is.
yes.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because it could be like
Yep.
super haunted and it could be like, not,
Yeah.
not that
Right.
impressive.
yeah. yeah. It's got to be something
Gotta be spooky.
intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, the Sally House, it's built in the 1800s. The home has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It was built for Michael Finney and his family, who lived in the home until 1947.
And sorry, where is this? What state?
Kansas.
Kansas. Okay.
Yes. So 4 members of the Finney family died of natural causes in the home throughout the years, and the home housed multiple families, like up to present day.
Multiple deaths in the house is a really rough start.
Yes. Even if they're of natural causes.
Yep.
It's
Just
still
death.
Energy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So none of the families that have lived there, it says, would be as memorable as the Pickmans. So the Pickmans are, they said, young couple, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, bought the home in the 90s, so it wasn't the 80s. But soon after, they started to experience strange, sometimes even violent occurrences in the home. And these days, like I said, it is on the haunted houses tours in the area.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think anyone lives there right now. So,
that's always kind of sus to me.
Yes.
When no
one
wants
to live there.
Yeah.
For a reason.
Yeah.
So here are the beginnings of the hauntings at Sallie House. So they claim to have experienced apparitions, disembodied voices, objects moving on their own, seeing shadow people, and also physical attacks at this house. The activity has been so severe at times that some believe the hauntings in the Sallie House could be demonic in nature rather than just a ghost. Others believe that the Sallie House is a home to a portal of sorts that allows entities to enter from one realm to the other.
I wonder what creates a portal like that. If it is that, like if it's like even deaths in the house or like innocence,
right?
Like death of innocence, something like that. Like even from natural causes. I don't know. You'd think it would have to be something a little more nefarious than that, but maybe not. Because a portal doesn't necessarily mean it's to a bad place. It could be neutral.
Yeah, that's true. It just depends what's coming through it.
I think I just unlocked a new fear.
Perfect.
I'm just gonna unwittingly open a portal in my apartment.
Yeah. Nope, not today. Yeah, that is a little weird.
Satan.
Maybe we should look into that. How's a portal opened?
Yeah.
Okay, so the main apparition that people see in this house is a young girl, and that's kind of why it's called the Sallie House, because people think that this apparition is Sallie, although there is no one named Sallie that lived in this house, at least on record. So
guaranteed someone used a Ouija board and it spelled out Sallie and they logged onto that.
Okay. Yep.
That's my theory.
I wouldn't be surprised.
My non-expert theory.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. So poor Sallie. So yeah, like I said, there's no proof that a girl named Sallie ever resided there. However, there are reports of a man named Dr. Charles Finney, so the one who owned the home first. He's a doctor. He operated his office out of the first floor of the residence. And the legend says that Sallie might have been a patient of Dr. Finney. And he performed an emergency surgery on her that resulted in her death in the home.
I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So there's 2 versions of the Sallie story. One being that a woman rushed Sallie, who was 6 at the time, to the doctor with severe abdominal pain. Dr. Finney realized that the girl's appendix was on the verge of rupture, so he performed the surgery at his residence, and she died on the operating table. But the second version is that Sallie was born as a result of an affair that Dr. Finney was having. I don't know
salacious.
the source. Yeah, I don't know the source of this, but when the little girl fell ill, her mother brought her to Finney, so he would have been her dad. And since he would not allow her to go to the hospital for fear that his affair would be exposed, he decided to perform the surgery himself.
I see.
So that could be where our sweet Sallie comes from, and hopefully Sallie is not a demon.
No. Ugh.
But
But like little kids, ugh.
yeah.
It's usually a demon.
Yep. Yeah, unfortunately, true.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as things ramped up with the Pickman family specifically, they started looking into things more, and it was discovered in the early 2000s that a pentagram had been drawn on the basement floor of the home.
Ew. Ew. By whom?
Who knows? Um, and other satanic ritualistic remnants have been discovered. They also performed a luminol test,
What?
and it highlighted blood splatter in the
Ew,
closet and in the master
dude.
bedroom. Yeah. So
Oh my
that
god. That's scary.
it is really scary, actually. The luminol thing is disturbing.
Do you think like
Um,
animal sacrifice, like blood rituals?
it could be. And
Or
if it's
murder?
blood splatter, that like kind of implies
Blunt
violent.
force? A
Yeah.
trajectory,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
I watch too much Criminal
So
Minds, that's for sure.
well, I don't know. We need theories here.
We do, we need theories.
It's spooky as hell.
Dun dun. Give me some
Yeah.
Law and Order energy.
Yep. So now the current hauntings. Yeah. So the Pickman
Wait, so sorry.
family.
Did the pentagram at all, did that get like discovered while the Pickmans were living there?
Yes.
Oh, so
I
it was like a
believe so.
previous family or previous
Yes.
tenants, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Pickmans don't have anything to do with that.
Okay.
I don't think.
But they were living there when it was found.
When they discovered it, yes.
Yeesh.
Yeah. So the Pickmans, now we'll get into their story specifically.
Okay.
So the first thing that they had was lights dimming or going off all the time on their own. That could just be an old house, but anyway, then their animals began to act really strangely. And after the birth of their son, the activity picked up even more. And the other thing they noticed was that mold would grow on like all of their household items and not take long. Like it would not take long for it to grow. So it would just appear.
Ew, that sounds demonic. Like,
yeah,
100%.
I would have to agree. But yeah, then at one point, the couple returned home from a day out and they found that all of the stuffed animals in their son's bedroom were in a circle on the floor. And
okay.
Later that same night, Tony, the dad, he felt this intense burning on his back, and when they looked at it, there was scratches down the spine.
Of course there were. Demons.
Yep.
You know, they're predictable, at least.
Yes. They have their tricks, and they stick
they
to
do.
them.
They stick. They're turning tricks big time.
Yes.
They stay turning tricks.
Yes. But the thing that I found, let's see, from the Reddit, so the Pickman family, had a crew there for a show long before ghost hunting shows were a thing.
Okay.
So they were getting people involved, and there was another scratching incident, and it happened in real time on camera. So that's the thing that people find so convincing, is that there's a scratch appeared on his arm. So
I would burn the house down. Burn it down.
Yeah.
I know you're not supposed to do that with demon infested things, but burn it.
But yeah, don't touch me. That's yeah. Especially when it seems like they were probably just like walking around the house and suddenly he's got a demon attack.
That sounds like something out of a Paranormal Activity movie.
Mm-hmm.
I would be so scared.
Yes. Yep. Agreed.
Oh my god, the poor Pickmans.
I know. And yeah, they're out of there now. I actually don't know if they still own the home. Oh no. Now somebody named Les Smith Jr. owns the home.
I really thought you were going to say Zach Bagans.
I would not be surprised.
No.
I'm sure he has an episode there at the very least.
100%. But he doesn't live in it, you said.
No. It's just a haunted
God.
house tour, I guess.
Ugh.
But what was the last thing? Oh yeah, I haven't listened to this, but this came up a lot in the comments that another podcast, I believe it's a podcast, did like a full series on this house, and they went there
A
themselves.
series.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And it's called Astonishing Legends. So could be interesting because this commenter wrote they went themselves and they got some incredible audio that really shook them up, and they tried to debunk it in multiple ways, but
interesting.
didn't figure out anything. So
that's really wild. I don't love that for them.
No, I don't either.
I don't love that at all for them.
I don't think I'll be visiting the Sally house, but
no. Dear God, no. Well, okay, so I was like writing down notes here for myself because I didn't want to forget any of this, but a lot of things you said triggered things that I wanted to say. Okay. So did I tell you about, I know I think I talked a little bit about the Niagara on the Lake ghost tour that we did.
Actually, I don't think you did.
Maybe I didn't, which is like insane. It was a little underwhelming in that there was a lot of death in this town because a lot of, I don't even know what war it was. What war was fought in Niagara on the Lake? It wasn't the Revolutionary War. War of 1812, that's right. Okay. War of 1812 was fought in this town. And so there's just a lot of death, like soldiers, but other people too. Like there were situations where like a soldier came into like a private residence and shot a woman because he thought she was a soldier, like just like accidental things like that. So people see her like staring out the window that faces this like beautiful street. Anyway, creepy. We didn't see anything scary. There are a couple bars that are really haunted. A lot of like, you know, this soldier shot this soldier out in the alley, like duel style. But the one that really creeped me out, I don't remember exactly the background on it. I took a photo of it, so I'll see if I can resurface it, and I'll post it on our Instagram if I can find it. But the house is not occupied, and that this is what reminded me is you're like, no one lives there, but like, you know, weird shit probably is still happening in the house. And a lot of people have felt like really bad vibes around this house. Like it's a stop on a ghost tour. So of course there's like some suggestion there as well. But what's weird, and this is another like caught on camera thing, is a lot of people will take photos of the house because it's beautiful. It's this like 2-story, like very like, I don't even know what style it is, like colonial maybe. It's beautiful. And now I think it's like historical as well. Like I think it's a historic like landmark, so they can't do anything to it. But two things will happen. People will see someone in the window or on the porch, or the photo is black. Like they take the photo, it looks normal, and when they go to look at it later, the photo's completely black.
Oh.
Or like
weird.
Clouded over. Like they can't see the house. It's like the house isn't there.
Wow.
Really weird. So that reminded me of that. 2, you brought up Peggy earlier, Peggy the doll in the feed. And I was just listening to, I was getting caught up on Rattled and Shook, which is another podcast I really like. And Meredith was talking to, Meredith, who's one of the hosts. The other host, April, has been taking like a bit of a hiatus from hosting. And so she's had a bunch of guest speakers or guest hosts. And I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about Peggy the doll. And someone was like, oh, I like didn't buy it at all. Like, oh, she was asking her if you had to spend the night in one haunted kind of like locale, what would it be? And she was like, can I spend it with a haunted object instead? And she was like, sure. I mean, it's hypothetical. Do what you want. And she was like, Robert the doll. And then they were talking about like, oh, I didn't believe in Robert the doll. It wasn't Peggy. It was Robert. I'm remembering now. But Robert's the one who you have to like ask permission to take his photo, and like bad shit happens to people who don't. And so this other podcaster who also does like a paranormal podcast was like, I don't buy it, like whips out her phone and the lights went out. And she's like, sorry, I'm out. I'm not taking the photo. My bad, my bad. Like, sorry. And then I guess later when they recorded an episode about it, the co-host was looking at photos of him and got one of those like signature Robert the Doll migraines. And like the whole time, like as soon as the podcast was published, it was like so bad, and then it petered out and stopped eventually. But Robert's a vengeful one for sure.
Yes. Yeah, I would not hang out with him.
No.
That's for sure.
And then, yeah, definitely not. And then the last thing I was going to say, and I'm kind of kicking myself because, again, was listening to Rattled and Shook, and Meredith had Payne Lindsay, who is like a producer for Tenderfoot, but he also hosts his own podcast. He's also dating Sabrina from Two Girls, One Ghost, who we love. Favorite podcast couple. But he has a podcast called High Strange, where he talks about, I think, primarily UFOs. I don't know if the whole podcast is about that, but I've listened to a couple episodes that are like UFO centric, and like evidence on camera where like multiple people have witnessed these lights in the sky that no one can explain. And like this one woman that he interviews like tracks down, like talks to the like local military base, talks to the FAA, like air traffic control, like she like follows the line, gets passed down, and everyone's like, no, we don't know what that is, and you're not the first person to call. So like really weird, where it's like multiple people witnessing something that no official government agency can explain. And it's partnered with like a feeling of like being watched. So also, I think we could definitely turn it into another UFO episode, like that story, other like multi-person witness encounter stories, plus the latest government briefing, because there was a recent congressional hearing on UFOs and UAPs, I guess we'll call it, which I think it turned out to be a bit lackluster, but I wonder if there were any like Easter eggs in there,
tidbits.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
So sorry, I just had to like rapid fire get those out.
I kind of want to know what haunted locale you would choose if you had to spend a night somewhere, or with an object, I guess.
Oh God, I don't know
either.
I feel like, do you know what yours would be?
No.
None of the above. Like, no.
Maybe
no,
the
thank
Stanley.
you.
Maybe the Stanley Hotel.
Oh, okay.
That
yeah,
would
same.
Be doable.
Only if we can go together. If I were alone, no.
Absolutely
like,
not.
Like, over my dead body, no.
Yeah.
With you, I think I'd be okay. But we actually would be probably the worst people to go together, because we would be like, did you hear that? Did you hear that? And we'd like escalate each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And
it would still be fun, though.
It would be fun. But just being so open to the possibility of the existence of these things, we'd probably be likely
a beacon. Like, we'd be like, Beedoo, come haunt us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
God.
That's maybe one day, but probably
maybe
not.
One day.
I don't know if
probably
I want
not.
that experience.
Actually, I would go, like, especially in the winter, I would go and spend a night at the Stanley. Okay. It's beautiful. And to do the tour, like to do the whole thing, like totally capitalize on the one night. Stay up late, not in the room.
Maybe don't sleep.
Go to bed.
Actually,
actually. Except I don't think I'd want to be awake at 3 to 3:33.
No. Yeah, okay, no, I wouldn't either.
Right? I'd want to be out cold.
Yes. You take
eye mask,
Ambien.
Earplugs, like, pop an Ambien, full sensory deprivation.
Yes.
Okay, maybe we put this on our to-do list. I feel like this could be fun.
We have a plan now.
We have a plan. Okay, look at us. We went from like never, nowhere to a plan, a tangible plan.
We made it work.
I love it. Okay, you guys, please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen. Tell your friends. if you like the pod. Word of mouth helps. We're super excited to get into the nitty gritty through the rest of 2025 to close out season 4. We haven't picked dates for end of season yet, but we will share that with y'all once we do. You can follow us on social at Girls Gone Spooky. You can email us at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com or just DM us on social. That's fine too. We'll be back next week. And until then, stay spooky.
Bye.
Bye.